Let's hope. Okay. Sorry to y'all that are joining. I had to hang up and start over again because my screen was glitching. So I hope that it works.
Okay.
I think it's really important because we personalize it a little bit, Yes.
What is Nicole doing?
I don't know, but I just muted her. Okay, I think this is better. I'm not glitching anymore. All right, just gonna give it a second to let some people in. Krystal, we are so happy to have you on this chat.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Okay, just giving it another second. People are still coming on. Then we'll get started. All right, I think. Oh, Nicole. Okay. Oh, there's Kimberly. All right. Y'all don't be afraid to turn your cameras on.
Mine was still looking crazy, so I turned it off again.
Yeah, mine's better for right now, but who knows? It updated right before I logged on, so I don't know. Zoom and I are not friends right now after somebody hacked my account and spent $230. So yeah, that was fun. It was fun. Yeah, that was real fun a couple weeks ago. So I have to do like two-factor authentication, all kinds of stuff to make sure people aren't hacking my stuff. But anyways, let's get to the important stuff. We are here to talk about the Davenports. Gosh, can't even speak right now. Krystal, we are so glad to have you on here and talk about this incredible book. I knew from hearing the description way before it came out that this was something that I wanted to be a book club selection. Most who know me know that I love historical fiction. So this was completely up my alley and something that I was so excited about. And I know many in the group felt the same way as I do. So we're just so happy to have you here to be able to discuss and ask questions and talk about this book, because I know the ending kind of had us all like, wait a minute, what happened? We want more. So yeah, super excited about it. Just my initial feelings, like, again, I am a sucker for romance. That's pretty much what I read most of the year. If it's, historical fiction on top of that, like it's everything for me. So I love this. I loved following all of the characters. I honestly don't even know if I could pick a favorite. I don't. I like Amy Rose.
I like her a lot too. People always ask me who's my favorite, and I'm like, why are you doing this?
That was one of my questions for you, because I have a hard time choosing. Like they all had like parts of the book where I was like, oh, I really like this character. So I had a hard time choosing who would be my favorite. But I think Amy Rose, I had a soft spot for her in particular. So anybody else have any thoughts on their favorite characters or character?
I just have a question about Washington Dwight.
Sure.
He was Black, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think my favorite character was the little sister.
Oh,
Helen. Yeah.
Yes, Helen.
Yeah, Helen was my favorite too.
I could see myself in Helen just because I'm such a tomboy too. Like I'm like her, like let's go fix cars and hang out with the boys and do things that you're not supposed to do, quote unquote. So I loved her character too.
As I was reading the book, to me, I was picturing, even though I know it wasn't that time era, but I was picturing like the ladies dressed like in Bridgerton. And I was like, yeah, I would be like her too. Like, I want this corset on me and this dress. So yeah, I think that's why she became my favorite.
Yeah, and just like the parties giving her anxiety, or she's hiding in the library. Like that sounds like most of us, right? We want to be where the books are and not at these functions just to kind of schmooze people and look pretty and wine and dine people. It was like, no, I'm going to hang out with the books and go find my hiding place. And I absolutely love the relationship between Helen and John. They had an awesome relationship, and I loved their bond.
Yeah, I don't know who was my favorite, but I know who was my least favorite, the liar. I can't remember his name. The one that wanted
guy
to
who
marry
was-
Olivia, but then
Yeah.
ended up falling for Helen.
On. What's his name? John?
Jacob.
Jacob.
Yeah, because John is the
Jacob
brother.
Lawrence. Mhm.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Jake. Oh,
He
I
was
liked
my
him, Talisha. He was
No, no, no,
Absolutely not.
no.
but she lied too because she didn't really want him either. They all lied.
This is true.
But and the reason I asked if the Washington Dwight guy was black is because there was something about his description that a girlfriend of mine asked me. She said, "He's black, right?" I said, "I think so."
Yeah, he was.
Right. I don't think I had a least favorite character, really. Story was awesome, but Washington Dwight, it brings up a greater like topic of, the mixed race. I got the impression that he was mixed race. He was black, right? Or was he mixed race? Or which is, I don't know.
So it was Harrison Barton, the guy that was dating Ruby. He was mixed race.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes. And I'm from Ohio, so I looked up the story and I was like, what? I had no idea this. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I'm like, I need to tell my mother that this is a true story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was surprised about too when I saw the article that inspired this venture, was that it happened and I hadn't heard about it. Nobody talked about it. I didn't learn about it in school. A lot like Helen, I tinker with cars. I had a 98 Mustang and I have a 2006 Mustang. And my dad and I always tinkered on them, trying to get them running. They're very fickle. So having Helen be really enamored with motor vehicles and driving and how they work, that's a little bit of me in her. That was like really interesting to explore, and not knowing that there was a Black owned car company during this time period was so fascinating.
That's awesome. That was one of my questions for you, was how you discovered the Patterson family, because their story is so unique. And I hadn't heard anything about them either until this book. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I did read that you did a dare to complete NaNoWriMo as a challenge, and this is how the book came about. Can you care to talk about a little bit about that process and where the ideas?
So for people who don't know, NaNoWriMo is a 30-day challenge to write 50,000 words of a novel during the month of November, which is National Novel Writing Month. And I was in a terrible reading slump and I couldn't figure out anything that I wanted to read. And one of my younger brothers, he's an avid writer and illustrator. He wants to be an editor and he does it every year. And he's like, do this with me, like pick something to write about. It'll be a lot of fun. And during that time when I was thinking about it, I came across the article that had a picture of Frederick Patterson in front of one of their family's automobiles. And I was like, maybe I'll write about this story. Wow. And I was doing research and couldn't find anything a lot about him. And then when I saw one article mentioned that he had daughters, I was like, oh, what was their life like? It must have been so interesting. So that is kind of what got the ball rolling. And when November came around, I was like, okay, I'm going to make up what I think their lives were about. And that's what my book is going to be, what their lives could have been in this position of wealth and having a father who was an entrepreneur, but then also this like backstory of having escaped slavery and like the hardship that I would guess their father would have tried to shelter them away from. So needless to say, I did not hit the 50,000 words because, I did it just, on a whim. I didn't have enough research done. And so I was just following where the story took me and the different characters as they were, coming together. So it was a very fun experiment. It wasn't the first time I did NaNoWriMo, but it was the first time that I like really had this story that I felt like this could be something. So it was a lot of fun trying to get into that challenge and, kind of let me know that I needed to do more research and that it got me into a habit of writing every day or close to every day just to try and hit that word count that you need to complete it. So it was a very fun challenge, and I was happy that I got to do it with one of my brothers.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I have a
So-
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I know on Goodreads they have the Davenports listed as a book 1, so
Mhm.
I'm assuming that there's more to come.
Yes.
Will we have a story that focused on Amy? Because I was very intrigued by her and her family. And then I was also intrigued by the father, because it kept coming up about how he got there and
Mhm.
his father. And so I was just wondering, are we going to get more of those stories in later stories, or will Amy have a book dedicated just to her? Just wondering.
So I'll definitely be exploring Amy Rose's story in future books. It's funny that you mentioned wanting to know about the father, because my mom like reads all my drafts and she like follows along with the story, and she like gives me her opinion. She's like, I don't think this is where the story should go. But like one of the things that she really wants is like, could you do a prequel story about the parents and like how they met and how they met the Tremaines and kind of what built their friendship and how they built the company? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'll have to talk to my editors if that's something that they'd want me to write. She's like, oh no, like even if you just write it for me, like I don't care. She's like, I just want to know. I want this story. So like that is something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. And I'm like, as I find information or have ideas, I'm like jotting it down in a little like Word doc on my computer, just in case. But I really do.
I like that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I like that idea because one thing, as I guess I was reading, continuing to listen through the book, one thing that stuck out to me was that they all were trying to marry down, except for Ruby, because her family really didn't have the money anyway. And they were hoping to get the Davenport status, by her being able to marry John. And so I thought that part was really interesting because we already dealing with race and, the struggle of them of the parents coming from where they came from, or, we don't know too much about the other parents, but I do think it's interesting if there was to be a prequel, because I was thinking about that through the book, like, okay, these parents don't want that because they're pretty much marrying down outside of a class that they work so hard to get to.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, to add on to that, like, I love that about each of the characters, that they kind of followed their hearts instead of like who they were supposed to be with based on what their families wanted or what society thought. Like, they all followed their hearts and went with their choice. So I really love that aspect of each of the characters in the story.
So
Me
when can we
too.
expect more books?
I'm sorry.
When can we expect more books?
Look at y'all. Y'all just asking all my questions.
So I'm currently working on book 2 right now. So that's in progress.
Book 2, you said?
Yeah, right now I'm working on book 2. So sometime
cool.
next year.
Nice. That's exciting.
Mhm.
So how long from NaNoWriMo to when the book got published? Like, what did that time period look like? How long did it take you to complete the book and get it to a publisher and get it published?
Yeah, so I started, it was the NaNoWriMo 2019. No,
Okay.
2019 is when I did that NaNoWriMo. And I had about 100 pages worth of it. So I got that really polished. I already had an agent from a previous project that I was working on, but that didn't pan out. So I had that first 100 pages and a proposal, and my agent's like, I have contacts, I'm going to talk to people. So it was about a year it was out and I was completing it, that it sold, and then it came out a month ago. So about 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Another question. Don't give me. I can't think of his name. The guy who Ruby started to use to try to make John jealous.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that because from the way I read it, he was the product of a slave master having sex with his mother. I like that you took the spin on the people not really welcoming him. And I wonder, why did you take that? Because, so often we see especially with colorism, older, lighter skin, everybody's going to fall in love with him. Everybody's going to want him. But it seemed like more people were pushing him away, like they didn't want to be affiliated with him because of his past or who he was, how he, who his father would be. So I wanted just to know, why did you take that spin instead of making him like the heartthrob because he was a fair skin?
Yeah. So I kind of looked at it like I'd already seen that story where that is put on, like you said, the heartthrob, like it's the automatic person who's more attractive. I feel like that's a story that I've already seen. And I kind of wanted to do something different. Like it's also part of the reason why I kind of did a book that was young adult, but that could translate to adult and middle grade readers, was because I wanted a story that was more accessible and showed something that wasn't really shown. For me, I hadn't seen many stories where people didn't automatically make assumptions one way or the other. And in Harrison's case, I'd seen stories where people automatically put someone forward because they might have lighter skin. And I just wanted to tell a different story. So I tried to be intentional in that way. And then having Ruby really look at his character and the way that she interacted with him and the way that he treated her, saying like, looking past what other people said about her and looked at his character more, was really important for me to show in the story.
That's interesting that you say that, Nicole, because when I was listening to it, I more so understood that nobody wanted to be with him because he was a troublemaker. Like he went from city to city, he riled up, and at that time when Black people were fighting for so much, it's kind of like, okay, we got a little bit of freedom, let's just stay here and be comfortable. Whereas he was kind of leading like this revolution, like, no, it's not good enough to be comfortable. I'm going to stir up all this trouble and then I'm going to hop a train and be in the next city. And I think, that's where Olivia was trying to figure out if she missed her point, should she go or should she not? And I'm gonna just say, I am mad that the cousin got in the way. I would have still hopped on that train. The cousin would have still been in jail.
That was the other character, right? That was the other character.
Yeah, that was the
That
other
was
character,
Washington.
Talisha. Yeah, that was Washington.
Yep. Washington? Which one was that?
That was a different couple. But yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, he was a troublemaker. Yeah. And I can see why even Olivia's mother, Mrs. Davenport, was kind of leery of her just picking up and, following him across the country where she had other obligations at home.
Well, I liked that you, speaking about that, when her mother confronts her about leaving and she's saying she wants, they have all this wealth and stuff, but she wants to make a difference. And her mom, is truthful with her and tells her, we tried that and it didn't work for us. That's why we want better for you. I was like, oh, I'm glad her mom's just not a snob just to be a snob, but she really is trying to look out for her daughter, even if it's, not as noble as we want her to be, but she's already experienced that and trying to, be a part of that change and thinking that, the way that they're doing it by donating money or supporting this cause is making a bigger difference than when they didn't have money and was just out there trying to be like Washington and the rest of those folks. So I like that you made her a little more human, because I just saw her as, kind of uppity. So I was glad to see that in her character.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to how everybody has different strengths and resources, and just capitalizing on what you have available can make a difference in many different ways.
I just wanted to say that I am so glad that this book came out. I am a middle school librarian, and so it was awesome to see my 8th grade girls just are gobbling this book up. They were like, oh, we wanted some romance. We wanted some romance, but you kept that romance just right there on the line for my 13-year-old girls. And I was able to order it because for young adult, it's 8th grade and up. But if it's 14 and up, you can't get it in a middle school. So I was, according to where my county is. So they are so excited. We're supposed to have lunch at the end of March, and they're almost already done. And they're like, oh, I like Olivia. Oh, I like Olivia.
Yes.
Oh, Miss Anderson, this one is good. This one is good. I was like, oh, y'all saying you like some historical fiction? And they do. So I like this story so much because it was able to draw students in, and it wasn't something that was a downer for them. They really enjoyed learning about the history. They're enjoying reading it, so they're gobbling it up. So it looks like we're probably gonna move the meeting up because they're all almost done.
Oh, that's awesome.
So happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh,
I was gonna say, for me, it didn't read like a young adult novel, which I really appreciated. I mean, when I read young adult, like I love reading young adult, so that's not a genre that I have a problem reading. But to me, I wasn't even thinking that this was a young adult novel as I was reading it, which to me is awesome. I completely enjoyed it. Some books, when they're young adult, you have teenage characters and it kind of reads like that. But for me, it's like these characters were mature to me, and they just were so graceful, a lot of them, and I loved everything about the characters.
thank you.
I think I was gonna say, again, each character had moments where one was more my favorite than the other. But Olivia, like that part of the book when she was about to escape and she makes it to the train station, I'm like, oh, she's gonna do it. She's gonna find her happily ever after. And then it's like, I got to go bail this person out of jail now, so I'm not. And I was just like, ah, my heart broke for her. I was so sad. I was like, she's finally going to do what she wants to do and get out of here. And then she was a good friend. I will say that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for right now?
Yeah. I have a question, and I'm pretty sure it's because there's more books to come. But we couldn't get one of them in a relationship at the end of the story.
You're breaking up a little bit, Nicole.
It's my Zoom. I was hoping it was going to be John and Amy. And then she had her shop, and then she didn't get the shop, and then she left, and I was screaming, no, I really wanted her.
Yeah, I was heartbroken for her too when her shop was gone. And I was like, oh, but then in the back of my mind, I was thinking maybe somebody got it for her. I was like hoping, and then here comes John. I did like them together as a couple.
I did too. But
like
yeah,
go ahead, Keela.
No, I was just gonna say I was right there with Nicole because I listen to the book when I'm in the car, and then when I'm at home or somewhere else, I read the actual book. And so I was right at the end as I was driving from work, and then all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, that can't be the end, and I can't pull over, I can't go, and I'm just like, that can't be it. Something must have happened to the audiobook or something. I'm like, oh my God, no. And then I was like, when is the next one coming out? I have questions, but yeah. And John is my bae. Any boo that has a dimple, as soon as you said he had a dimple, I was done.
Me too. I'm a sucker for dimples.
Yes. Any other comments? Okay, so one question.
I thought John's dad was cruel in the end.
Yeah, that you can't have any money and we're not going to take care of you if this is the path you choose. The ultimatum.
Yeah, that was really bad for me. I thought that was so bad.
Yeah, it's tough. That's what like parents have a vision for you, and it's like, this is the way of the family. This is how you keep the wealth going and keep these expectations, and
it was by any means necessary his way.
Yeah.
Well, he also didn't really want to change, because every time Don brought an idea about, they need to start thinking about the future. People are using these horseless coaches, which we know as cars. And he just wasn't, he was like, no, we'll just do what we're doing. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And I'm like, if you want your son to take over the business and you you have to listen. But then I thought to myself, he was a former slave. He built this business. I guess he probably still had some, you know, stuff going on because they talk about, you could see the scars from his brand and all this stuff. So he did have a lot going on. But that part when he was like, well, you can have her or you can have your, we won't support you. I'm like, well, that's just awful.
Yeah.
Between him and Ruby's mama. Oh, I was so done with Ruby's mama.
Yeah, I was over that lady too. She was doing the most.
Like, put this dress on, scoop it up. I was like, oh Lord, what you wanted to do? Just strip in front of Dawn? Oh my.
Yeah, he had a lot of good ideas and business plans that he wanted to execute, and it's like Dad just kept shutting it down.
Mhm.
But you push people away, then he's going to become your competition. Do his own thing anyway.
Yeah, and John was willing to work with Helen. Like he saw the potential in his sister, and he saw like the way her mind thought about the cars and everything. So I think that that's going to be his, like, if he does decide to do his own path, he's going to take her in with him because she obviously was helping to save a business potentially. Like, who knows where it was going? Because of course, as we all know now, horse and carriages went away, but the dad didn't want to see that.
Yeah, Cassandra said maybe in another book, John can have his car company and be married to Amy Rose, and she'll have her shop as well. Yeah, I think they made a good couple being entrepreneurs and having that mindset. They know what it takes. So she would be a great person to support him, and vice versa. He'd be a great person to support her endeavors as well. So I really like them together as a couple. Amy Rose came from some hardship as opposed to everybody else. And so I really loved her story of making a way for herself, especially with her mom having passed and things like that. She's dealt with some hard times. So I was excited to see her and the plans she had. Like she had it all mapped out. Like she really put thought into it and practiced it and had her products and things like that. Like I really loved where she was going with that.
Yeah, Amy Rose is the organizer in me, very much having like a plan laid out, being ready, and just gathering information. I really liked that she would go into town and talk to other business owners. And I thought that was a good way to show that there was all this entrepreneurship that was going on downtown, and all these Black business owners were thriving and supporting each other. And I think that's also something that wasn't really talked about as well in my history classes. So I thought that was fun to explore.
I would like to see Amy Rose and John together, and I'd like to see, I guess, the series probably carried out to the end when they do have the car company, but it doesn't make it because of, I think did you say it was because of the car industry, and they weren't able to meet the demands. That's what happened in history. They weren't able to meet the demands. So just kind of be interested to see if they go that route with in the historical fiction part, that they will go all the way to the end where this car company has to close. And how does John and Amy Rose handle that?
Can I ask, when you chose the setting of the book, why did you choose Chicago? Because when I think about like Black wealth from like the past, don't laugh, I kind of think of like a Whitley Gilbert from Different World and how all of her lineage came through the South. And remember, she had all of her Southern roots and she knew everything. And, she was quote unquote uppity. And so when we think about some of those wealthier Black families from the back, their story started in the South, but to have this one start in Chicago was a different spin. So I was just wondering why you chose a Northern state over a Southern.
So I chose Chicago because when I was doing my research, a lot of the historical figures that I was gaining some like inspiration from and influence from was set in Chicago. And the majority of my writing this and my research was during the pandemic. And the Chicago Public Library and University of Chicago had all their materials available online, like
Wow.
like their articles, their archives, descriptions about their different exhibits, tours of the museum. So it was very easy to gather a lot of the information that I needed to complete this novel based on what was going on in Chicago during this time period.
That's very cool.
Mhm.
Sure, it seems like a lot of research had to go into it for you to be able to
Mhm.
come up with this. And I was like, I know you had the basis of the Patterson family, but then also like the times and what they wore and things like that probably was a huge part with your
Like I was
research.
afraid I was gonna misrepresent it because like I'm a bio major, like I like science. I love reading historical fiction, but studying for history tests and all that kind of stuff was like I found it interesting, but I didn't want to get things wrong or misrepresent people or anything like that. So it was definitely fun, and I really appreciate everything that I learned. And I really just wanted to do something that readers can pull information that was accurate or information that inspired them to do more research on their own, something that kids can use as a jumping off point to do their own historical exploration. So yeah, it was a lot of how can I present this in a way that kind of celebrates the achievements that were done during this time in a way that people can't say, well, that's make believe. I wanted something that people can point to and say, like, no, this really happened. This is part of American history. Just because you weren't taught it or you didn't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I think you did a job well done with your research on it. It
Yeah.
flowed together nicely. So in thinking about this, because I did enjoy the book, I'd love to see this adapted into a film, or something like that.
Mhm.
Do any of you have people or actors or actresses in mind that you would think would do these characters justice, I guess I should say? The question just popped in my head, so I didn't have anybody in particular that really came to my mind. But how cool. I mean, because I totally loved, Bridgerton is awesome, but you don't get to see the Black wealth from that. So I think that this would be a really cool spin on that, because I absolutely adore Bridgerton, but to see this story told and to see the success of a Black family and Black people, I think that would be so awesome. But the question just popped in my head, so I don't have anybody particularly in mind, but wanted to see if y'all did.
I'd like to see Zendaya as Amy Rose.
I was gonna say that too.
Oh, nice.
I unmuted to say I was thinking her or Tessa Thomas.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Tessa's good.
I was thinking of the girl that it was in Ginny and Georgia. What's her name?
Yes. Yeah.
Her a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Marseille Martin as Helen.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't even think about Helen. Like, who could play that?
What's the young man's name on Snowfall? I think he could play a good John. I think it's like Idris something.
My boyfriend, Idris.
Yes.
I think Lori Harvey got that.
Don't tell my husband. Don't tell my husband. Don't tell my husband. Right. Don't tell my husband, but my boyfriend. Right.
Hilarious. Who would play Ruby's mom?
Oh,
I know exactly. It'd have to be someone that we don't like.
Oh wow.
Someone who plays a villain.
Oh,
I don't know.
What's her name that she always plays the mom that's like, so what, he hit you just like
Lynn Whitfield.
Yes, Lynn Whitfield.
That's a good one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I was thinking her, but I was like, would she be too old? I feel like we need like a
a
new
lot of
age
these,
villain.
a lot of them are aging out because she need to be able to have an 18-year-old daughter.
No, that's true. That's true.
But she is a good one. She was definitely number one in my head.
She would be good because she's played that role a couple times.
If we looking for somebody younger, Sanaya Lathan, because think about how she was in that Tyler Perry movie when she was going to get, like, I could see her having that. I'm about to we just trying to get this money. That's what we focus on.
That's true. And she was that movie with Denzel. She was a little switched up and got crazy too. So you're right.
He could do it.
Taraji can play a mean person sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
Taraji, and she's in that age bracket where she could be somebody's mom, since they're, I feel like she could be a younger mother.
Yes, she definitely could play a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking TV show, series, or movie the entire time I was reading it, because I don't know if you guys watched The Gilded Age, but I love the Black characters, the Black family on The Gilded Age. It's on HBO, and I'm like, that's them. That's them right there. I can see, OWN or TV One, or somebody needs to do something.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Too. The fashion, I love the clothes. Just that yellow outfit from the cover.
Yeah.
Ready to see it.
The cover was beautiful.
Do y'all have, I was going to say, the shininess? Oh, I loved it.
It's so
I thought that was beautiful.
Like my favorite thing. This is like my copy with like all my notes and my flags in it when people ask me to do readings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so pretty. I'm so happy with it.
It is.
I actually had sent them like Pinterest pictures of like dresses and like actresses for them to do like the different characters on the cover. That was a lot of fun, but they didn't tell me it was going to be shiny. So when I opened the box for the first time and like all that glow, it was so fun.
Yeah, that's when the team sent it to us and they were like, just wait to the surprise when you get to see the cover in person. And I opened it and I was like, oh my gosh, the cover is so shiny. It's so pretty. So the characters, looking at the book right now, because I'm looking at all of them, who is who? I'm guessing Amy Rose is the one that's furthest to the left.
Yes.
Would she be okay? And then who's in the middle?
Anne is Ruby, and
Okay.
then Helen is the one closest to the two in the foreground, which is Olivia.
So I have a quick question for you. Knowing this was your introductory book, will YA and historical fiction be your main genre, or will you lean into other genres?
Good question.
I think I might do science fiction, because I really like sci-fi fantasy too. And I'm like a science geek. So I feel like I would try to roll in probably something that I learned from one of my classes into science fiction. So.
That would be really cool.
Oh yeah,
completely different too, but that would be really cool.
I saw a Bookstagram talking about I can't think of the exact word, but it's like Afrofuturism, and a lot of books that are coming up about based on that. And I'm like, that might be interesting to read, because I haven't read anything. So I went and got the Legendborn and Blood Marked One, because I'm like, that might be a good genre to start reading.
Those are good. Highly recommend.
Okay, good.
I completely missed the whole. I'm sorry. I completely missed the I have to go into the kitchen. The characters on the cover. So the prominent ones, the two big ones. Who are they?
That is Olivia, and I want to say that is. I'm not sure who the gentleman is. Like I feel like it could be John, or it could be Mr. Lawrence.
I was gonna say, yeah,
he's Mr. Lawrence.
Okay. And the three in the back?
So the one closest to the spine is Amy Rose, and then Ruby is in the middle, and then Helen is the one that is whispering to Ruby.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's really cool. I never really looked at it like that until just now. And then I was like, oh, it's them on the, That's really cool.
And I have to say thank you, Renee and Penguin Teens, because I was one of the people who won
winners.
the book.
Yay!
Yes.
I know they gave out 10 copies. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that you won.
Oh,
I think that was so awesome of Penguin Teen. They're probably one of my favorite partnerships
I didn't
that I
know
have.
if it was real or not, because they showed up in the DMs, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Should I answer? Should I give them my address? It's like, and then I was looking to see if you said anything about the winners. I'm like, she's not saying anything. I'm like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, honestly, they were really awesome about it. They actually had offered to send me the final copy, and I said, of course. And then I let them know that this actually is going to be, you know, our February book of the month. So they said, hey, you know, let's work on a partnership. And they completely did all the legwork. Like once all I had to do was put the post down there, and they said, we'll pick the winners, we'll message them. I'm like, hey, cool. If I don't have to message 10 people and get all their addresses, perfectly fine. So yeah, it was the real deal. They reached out and got everybody their copy. So I was really happy with that.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they're an awesome partner. So I was really appreciative of that. I did have a thought on John and Ruby. Did y'all feel like John was really into her at any point in time, or do you think, I don't know, I just like got this feeling that he was just doing it because it's what he's supposed to do?
He
I
just liked
agree.
it because he was
I
supposed
think
to.
he's
Yeah,
going through
he
the
was just
motions.
being nice.
And
He
then
loved
maybe
it.
like a tinge of jealousy, like once he saw that somebody else was interested in Ruby, it was kind of like, well, you know, let me show some more interest. Not because he was really interested, but just like that's kind of how men are. Like they get jealous, and it's like, well, you know, that's my, you know, they want ownership and that kind of thing. So I just felt like that was the only reason he was really showing interest in pursuing her, is because, you know, there was a tad bit of jealousy there.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
really like
also
you, but
got
I
the
don't
like
like
the
you like
big
you.
brother vibe. Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy. Go ahead.
With her, yeah.
Yeah. And also they didn't like that guy because of his lineage. So that may have been, if it had been another guy, maybe he wouldn't have been so he wouldn't have acted the same way if it was someone else with, you know, better breeding in their mind or whatever.
but I think even if John did like Ruby, because it got to the point where he wanted to kind of do everything opposite of what his dad was telling him to do, that he wouldn't be into her, because his dad, you know, oh, they come from good stock, you're good stock, you be together, even though they know her family was crumbling, you know. So I think that he would have pushed her away anyways, just to defy his father.
Yeah. I appreciated all those kids having their own minds to love and like who they wanted to. And it was, for me, Olivia and Helen kind of dancing around each other like, oh, well, I'm interested in Olivia's guy, but I don't want to tell her because I don't want to hurt my sister. And then the whole time, like, Olivia has somebody else that she has her eye on that she's keeping a secret about. So it was just kind of interesting that everybody was moving on to somebody else, but they kind of didn't know it, that they had that interest. And it was fun to discover that everybody kind of ended up okay with who they, you know, had interest in.
And I'm glad they didn't argue about it. I'm glad her and her sister didn't argue about, you know, her liking the guy she was supposed to be with. I'm glad that there wasn't an argument about that.
Yeah, it could have been ugly if Olivia didn't have somebody else to move on to. Like, it could have
So
gotten real
true.
ugly. But my bets would be on Helen. So
It was so hard for me
But
to
I feel like Olivia would not have had an
Mhm.
issue with her moving on with someone she was not interested in, I guess, in my opinion. Like, okay, I don't have to have, this is not what I want. She knew what she wanted. This is not what I want. So I don't think she would have had a problem.
I know it was kind of hard for me, because I guess when I was reading a book and they were talking about Mr. Washington, and, you know, he was this orator and he was trying to make change. I kept thinking of like historical times, and I kept picturing him looking like Frederick Douglass, and I was like, this girl is not going to be into this old man. And I had to be like, no, he's not
And
old.
I'm thinking Malcolm X.
Yeah, okay, that's how I should have been looking, but I kept thinking Frederick Douglass, and I was like, no, I need to get Lauren.
hilarious. Any other questions?
No, I was just going to say earlier that, like, when they were sitting at the breakfast table towards the end, and Olivia was realizing how much she missed out on what was going on just based off what John and Helen were talking about. And I think that was just like the turning point for them to all be like, okay, we need to stick this out. We need to do it together and just see where it goes.
Krystal, in your research, did it say how rich the Patterson family was? Like what that, in that time, like how much money they had?
I didn't find that information, but I did find that they were the leading employer for their town. and that they had 28 different types of carriages and buggies at one
Oh,
point.
wow.
Yeah. And a lot of their vehicles were popular because they put a lot of luxury features in them, a lot of upholstery and leather. The interiors were very elaborate. So I think on one hand, that kind of set them apart as like a luxury company to get carriages from. But I think it also made it difficult when it was time to modernize and switch over to automobiles. It was kind of difficult to put that type of detail into a vehicle to compete with Ford that had their assembly line.
I was gonna say, I can't even imagine like coming from slavery and being able to produce something like that that could make like the materials and how much things cost and the thought process behind it, like how you can even go from that to building this empire like that in itself is just an amazing story.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget the slaves built what everybody else had too.
Yeah.
That's true. This is true.
We were
So I was
stitching the
thinking,
dresses and everything else.
This is true.
Mhm.
It's
mhm.
true. We are very talented and crafty people.
And
And I
then
do
even
like,
during the time, like we got to
Yeah.
be better than the best. So
and I do like that you had them still thriving even amongst the white community,
Mhm.
and they had respect, even though they were kind of looking at them side eye. Like when they was in the park, I'll never forget, she was saying like, oh, they had to leave the park because now they were all coming to the park. So they couldn't enjoy their picnics anymore, but they still gave them this respect. And, they knew that they had wealth, so I did like that part too.
Any other questions? Jess, I don't want to put you on spot. I know you were able to jump on because you were busy with your conference, but I didn't know.
Hey y'all,
Welcome.
I am exhausted. I was like, I looked, I said, ooh, I can get 10 minutes in and I can keep up my streak. No, I enjoyed it. I like you said, just I think the scene in the store in the very beginning was like, oh, there's some bosses.
Yeah.
They have got it reminded me of that episode of A Different World where Whitley was like, the clerk was questioning what she could buy. She was like, I want it all. And then Freddie was gone with her purse. She couldn't buy any of it. But and then she ended up returning it all. But I was just like, oh, I'm gonna enjoy this. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for hopping on. I know you've had a busy day.
I'm exhausted, but I'm going home.
Any other final questions as we come to a close? I know I have one more question.
Like, I'll just say that this can also translate into like pre-Jim Crow. You talked about that, like 1950s. Like I think about my grandparents. My grandparents are entrepreneurs and they had to make a way to thrive in a society that didn't accept them. And I feel like I kind of resonate with the story, even though it was like pre-Jim Crow, but my grandparents also had the same experiences. So I don't know, that's maybe another topic for another day, but like it still continued on. Like my grandfather was a barber, my grandmother was a beautician. So it was like Ruby Rose. I was like, oh, that's my grandmother. She made a way, she made toupees for white men, so it's like, wow. I can resonate to this story even in 2023. So thank you so much, Krystal, for your story. Historical thing is my jam. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Same.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, one question that we like to kind of wrap up our chats with, and we'll start with you, Krystal, is what are you currently reading?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm reading a couple of things. I am reading Nightbirds, who is a fellow 23 debut with me. I am reading There Goes the Block, which came out. Oh no, I don't think it's out yet. But this is about gentrification in LA and about some elementary school kids who like make up a rumor trying to deter the white people from coming in and like developing their area.
Oh wow, that cover is beautiful too. I'm looking at that.
Yeah, what's the name of that again?
Yeah.
There Goes the Neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm jotting that down.
That looks good. Yep.
What else am I reading? I'm not sure. I'm also reading, I'm totally blanking.
No, you're fine.
Um,
How do you balance reading and writing? I don't like, for me, I can't balance both. That's why writing never gets done for me. But how do you find balance between doing both of those things?
So I usually read when I can't write. So if
Okay.
I'm stuck, or if I don't know where I want the story to go, or if I want, I don't know, if I'm in the doctor's office, I don't have my laptop with me. So I usually have like either the Kindle app on my phone or a book in my bag. I usually have a book in my bag, and there's always like 1 or 2 books that are in the trunk of my car.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
You stay loaded like us.
yes. So like if I do run into some accidental boredom, I do have something to read. Yeah, so I'm excited
That's
about
awesome.
the book being out and people being able to read it, and then getting to talk about it with other people.
Yeah.
Mm.
We greatly appreciate you. Right now I'm reading The Token Black Girl.
Ooh, I have that on my list too.
Yeah, I actually will. Some of the ladies here have gotten me onto the Kindle challenge. So it's one of the, I think, best of 2022 category. So I'm trying to hit all of the goals. So I think that'll kind of close me out from hitting everything once I finish that. So I'm almost done with that. Probably have about an hour left in the audiobook. So that's what my current read is. What about you guys, you ladies?
I'm reading Wade in the Water.
Have that. Heard it's good.
I'm reading The Confessions of Franny Langston, and it's difficult.
Really? Because I've had that like on my list forever.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult for me
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah. Difficult because of like the subject, or is
Yeah,
that
difficult because of the subject, and there's so much. Uh, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's so much. It's a lot of back and forth in there, and it's like, okay, you really don't really know where the story is going at some point,
Mhm.
because it seems to jump from one thing to the other, and then it goes back to seem like the beginning. So it's kind of weird.
Okay.
I just think maybe I just don't have my mind right for it yet.
Sometimes that happens. You're just not mentally prepared for a book. Totally understandable. All right.
Yeah.
Talisha said she's reading Wade in the Water as well. Amina reading Sister Mother Warrior. I have that book too. So many books, so little time. Love on the Highlight Reel is what I'm reading. That's Cassandra. I'm trying to complete the 8-book series this month. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Good luck with that. Let's see. Currently reading Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Never heard of that one. Reading
Hmm.
Fake It Till You Bake It. That's a good one. That's probably one of my favorites from last year. Romance reads. We did that as a book club pick, I think in the summer, but that one was really good, really cute. Yep, Nicole said that's a good one. Amy, you and your Eric Jerome Dickey. You said about to start Between Lovers. Okay. Alicia, Wild, Beautiful, and Free. Kilo, you're reading before, you haven't read Before I Let Go?
No, I haven't.
I'm surprised. Like, you're usually on
I
top of that
know
book is
I'm
really
so
good.
behind, but everybody says it's so good. So I'm reading it with
Yeah,
the
did you
group
see
of
the cake I
girls.
made?
I'm doing a buddy. I saw your cake. I won't be baking. No.
Oh, it was amazing. That cake is, yeah, it was good. Yeah, the book has a ton of recipes in the back, but the lemon cake is really good. Lemon pound cake. Mame, let's see. Honey and Spice was good. Read that one. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll down. What else we got? Small Great Things. I enjoyed that one a lot too. That's another book that had a lot of research put into it, and I felt like, as a white woman telling a Black woman's story, she did a lot of research and told it well. yeah, that's a great book. It was really good. Yep, that was a great book. Yeah, everybody's just agreeing with Small Great Things was a really good book, well researched. Awesome, y'all. We did it. Krystal, again, thank you so much for jumping on this chat with us. We really appreciate you. We absolutely love the Davenports, and we look forward to hearing more, because I think a lot of us we were talking about this in our little group chat, and just we wanted more. Like, we were kind of just left hanging, and I was like, is my mind playing tricks on me, or did none of them like end in their relationships, or with a happily ever after? And it was kind of like, yeah, we were just kind of left with this cliffhanger. So we're looking forward to seeing more of your work and seeing what comes of these characters.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a
no
lot of
problem.
fun.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Yep. Thank you all for joining. It's been awesome. And again, Krystal, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Hey,
y'all.
you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.